So, as you may have noticed, I just passed 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely huge, and I cannot thank you guys enough for subscribing, for commenting, for supporting my channel. I never expected it to grow this fast. It's just something I do on the side as a hobby. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for participating in this channel. Now, to celebrate this huge milestone, I am going to give you the probably most requested video that I have had thus far, and that is what modifications are done to your car. I'm going to actually break this video down into a couple segments, and I'm going to put a timestamp in the video, so if you want to skip to a certain section, you can do that. So to make sure I don't miss any parts, I'm just going to film from left to right and cover every part as I get to it. This really isn't a performance mod, but I added hood struts because it's much more convenient than the hood prop, and it keeps the engine bay much cleaner. Also, you may notice that I do not have factory suspension. I have Fortunato 500 series coilovers. I only have the car lowered an inch, and it's really not an engine bay mod, but since you could see it, I figured I'd touch on it. I'm not really going to go into depth on the coilovers right now. That's for a later video where I could actually review them and tell you everything that I think. Now, the first performance mod that I'm going to talk about is my 3-port electronic boost control solenoid. It's made by Grimspeed, and what it does is allow the tuner to bring in boost nice and low, and it also gives you better boost readings. A 3-port is only about $100, and I highly recommend it if you're stage 2 or over stage 2. You will need a tune for it, but if you're anywhere in that ballpark, I highly recommend it, and most tuners recommend it as well. Now, the intake that I have is a K&N Typhoon short ram intake. It was on the car when I purchased it, and I love it. Now, some guys may say that a cold air intake is superior to a short ram, but I live in Pittsburgh, and prior to that I lived in South Carolina where it rained a lot. Hydro-locking your car is not worth a couple horsepower in my opinion, so I'm fine with a short ram, and I love that I could actually hear the bypass valve through the intake. Now, on my intake I also have a pre-filter which actually slips over the filter element and helps it stay dry in wet conditions. So while I don't have a cold air intake, I've actually modified one of the OEM fog light covers to redirect cooler air up towards the short ram, so at least it's somewhat cooler than just engine bay temperature. I also have the Patterson turbo inlet hose, which is an improvement over factory because it gets rid of that accordion crap in the middle. It's much smoother, and since the engine was out, I decided to upgrade. I also have an upgraded turbo. This is a BNR 18G. It's a 50 trim turbo. It's slightly bigger than the stock VF39, but the biggest difference is that it doesn't run out of power up top. Anybody with a stock STI knows that once you get past about 5,500 RPM, it just falls on its face. This turbo actually pulls hard to redline, and I love it. Now, I have a CNT catted downpipe. I decided to go with a catted downpipe for 2 reasons. First of all, I have to pass Pennsylvania emissions, and second is, in my opinion, catless exhausts are too raspy and too much drone for a daily driver. I do like them, I think they're awesome, but just not on this car. For the catback, I have an NVIDIA N1 street version. NVIDIA actually makes 2 versions, the street version, which I have, and also the race version. The difference is the street version has a resonator in it, which takes out a lot of drone. The top bung on my downpipe is tapped in to use my AEM wideband air-fuel ratio gauge, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And the side bung, I have tapped in an EGT sensor so that I could keep an eye on my exhaust temps and make sure they don't get out of control. As you can see, I also have a PTP turbo blanket. Now, the purpose of a heat shield, or a heat blanket in this case, is to help keep the heat in the turbo and out of the engine bay. Now, I have used an aluminum heat shield in the past, but in my opinion, this turbo blanket does a much better job. I also have a Patterson pitch stop mount. It is an aluminum mount with polyurethane bushings, and it really helps keep the engine in place under hard acceleration. I have an ETS top mount intercooler, which is much larger than stock. Believe it or not, on the factory top mount, I actually made 380 wheel horsepower on a mainline dyno at sea level, but I figured it was time to upgrade anyhow, and since more had the engine out, why not? I have a Patterson full recirculating bypass valve. I really love the way this valve performs and the way it sounds, especially with a short ram intake. You can hear it perfectly. Now, what I really love about this valve is it's loud when you're getting on it and it's quiet when you're not. I have a Mishimoto X-Line radiator. It's a 3-row radiator. Now the real advantage to having a thicker radiator is that you could push the car harder and longer before it overheats. Now I also have the Killer Bee radiator shroud and Perrin rad stays. As you can see, I had to modify the shroud slightly to fit the aftermarket radiator. Now I have a Killer Bee alternator cover as well. Now as far as the engine itself goes, the heads are completely factory. They were refinished and cleaned when Moore did the engine job. As far as the short block, it is a Moore Performance Tier 1 short block, which is basically an STI block with upgraded pistons. I have JE pistons, as well as ACL race bearings and a heat-treated crankshaft. I have the Killer Bee oil pickup so that it doesn't break off like the factory ones are known to do. Something else on the engine that is probably not very apparent is I actually replaced the wiring harness. Now it is a OEM Subaru harness, but my old harness was completely shot basically. Several clips and connectors were broken off, and I actually had to zip tie my coil packs into the engine, which is never cool. So while they had the engine out, I told them just to replace the wiring harness at the same time. I have Grimspeed TGV deletes. I also have Grimspeed phenolic spacers. These are their 8mm spacers, and I have gaskets on both sides. The material these spacers are made out of is a very, very poor heat conductor, so it actually keeps your whole intake manifold much cooler than if you didn't have them. I also had Moore Performance upgrade my entire fuel system while the engine was out of the car as well. I upgraded my fuel pump to a DW300, which is a 320 liter per hour fuel pump, and it is also E85 compatible. I also have upgraded fuel lines from IAG Performance, and I upgraded my fuel rails as well. The fuel rails are actually from Radium Engineering, and it is a top feed conversion kit for side feed TGVs. As you can see, they have injector seats that pop into the TGVs and adapt it for top feed injector use. I also upgraded my injectors to Injector Dynamics 1300cc top feed injectors. Now the reason I need such big injectors is because I am going to be tuned for E85, and E85 actually flows about 30% more than standard gasoline. Now I probably won't get tuned for E85 until next spring since it's so late in the year, but it's definitely going to happen. I also added an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, which is really going to help get rid of pressure surges in the fuel system. I have a Grimspeed air oil separator. What I really like about their design is it's perfect for a daily driver. A lot of air oil separators on the market are actually intended for racing applications, and when you install that on a daily driver, especially in a cold climate, it can actually develop condensation inside and cause sludge to build up, and it's not good. I have a Moroso coolant overflow tank. I also have the STI wire grounding kit. The purpose of this kit is to make sure that each component has a solid ground. This kit was installed previously, so I don't know if I would purchase it myself, but it's already on the car, so there's no reason to take it off. So starting with the front of the car, I have a ChargeSpeed replica front lip. I purchased this off of eBay for like 80 bucks, but it's polyurethane and it's held up well to all the abuse of being a daily driver. I have an OEM fog light cover, which I have modified into an air duct that directs cooler air into my engine bay. It is not connected directly to my intake, but it directs air in that general area. I also have a Beat Rush front tow hook. Now, some guys may say it's rice, but I've actually used mine several times in the past 3 years. My car did not come with a front tow hook. Of course, I bought it used, but I definitely needed something for the cases where it would be towed, and it actually saves the tow truck driver from having to go under your front bumper. Now, especially since my car is lowered and it has the front lip, a tow truck driver trying to hook up underneath of my front bumper would pretty much rip it off. So next up is wheels and tires. Now this right here is my summer setup. I also have my OEM BBS wheels with snow tires that I put on for the winter. But these wheels right here are ProDrive GT1s. They are 18 by 8.5, and they are in anthracite gray. Now the tires I'm running right now are Bridgestone Potenzas. They are the RE760 Sports, and they are 255 by 18s. I also have upgraded DBA 4000 series rotors, and the pads I'm running are Hawk HPS street pads. The best part about the pads is not only the increased stopping power, but they create much less brake dust than the factory pads. I also have McGuard spline drive lug nuts with the locking lug so that nobody can steal my wheels. I also have Prova wide angle mirrors, which took a little while to get used to, but I actually love them. This STI doesn't have too many blind spots to begin with, but with these mirrors, you really don't miss anybody. Now, several years ago, my roof veins started to fade really bad, and Plastidip wasn't a thing back then, so I either had the option of vinyl wrapping it or spray painting it, so I chose to vinyl wrap it. Now, the wrap isn't perfect, but it's a lot better than spending $300 to $400 on a carbon fiber piece, especially on a daily driver. The wrap has held up very well over the past several years. If you look closely underneath, you can see that it's starting to peel in some places, but it's not a deal breaker for me. I also have a Domo installed, which is good for about a 55 wheel horsepower or so. So, for the back of the car, first of all, I have two Perrin wing stiffies. Now, these stiffies serve two purposes. First of all, the rear wing tends to vibrate at high speeds, and second is when you close the trunk, it tends to bounce. So these wing stiffies get rid of all that and make the rear wing stay nice and stable. I also blacked out all my rear emblems with Plastidip. I did it about 2 years ago, and they are actually going to need redone. So as soon as I have time in my schedule and the weather is nice, I'm going to redo those. I also have a carbon fiber plate surround for my license plate, as well as my ammo and no crust decals. I will be adding a few more decals to the car in the coming months, but I'm just waiting for them to come in. The black portion here on the bumper is Plastidip, and it's been holding up very well. And underneath, I've actually built my own rear diffuser. Now, the diffuser is not expensive at all, but it was very, very time consuming and took about 30 hours, if not more, for me to complete. I will be making a video for you guys showing you how I made it so that you can make your own if you want to, but it is very tedious and time consuming. Lastly, I've added a rear tow hook that is actually more functional than the factory one. So that's all I have for the back of the car. So let me show you inside. Now, I have WeatherTech floor mats. There was a guy on the forum selling them for basically half price. He had sold his car and didn't have any use for them, so I decided to scoop them up. Now, the best part about WeatherTech floor mats is not only are they very durable, but they essentially make a bucket. So if you live in the north where it tends to snow a lot, then you know that snow tends to pack into the bottoms of your shoes and melt as you drive because you have the heater on. Normally this would soak into your carpet and potentially cause rust, but with these floor mats, it all stays in the floor mat and you could actually dump it out after you're done driving. To the left of the steering wheel, I have my Accessport V3. Now, I just modified my version 2 mount to accept the hardware that was included with my V3. Cobb does offer a A-pillar mount for it, but I believe it's like $60 to $80, something ridiculous. So I just used what I had. And to the right-hand side of the steering wheel, I have my air-fuel ratio gauge, I have my boost gauge, oil pressure gauge, and exhaust gas temperature gauge. I also have the JDM hazard button. For the US models, it is the same boring gray that your center console is, but I really like the red button and it stands out and looks awesome. I have a Pioneer double DIN head unit. This is the, I believe it's the AVIC X930 BT, which has Bluetooth, GPS, DVD, CD. It also has the memory card, SD slot, so it pretty much has everything. What I really like about this head unit is it is iPhone compatible. So you could listen to your iPod or Pandora, Bluetooth, whatever you want. So it's very easy to use, you know.
Yeah. Too fast, too furious. I'm too fast for y'all, man. Too fast, too furious.
So I'm here trying to film my video for you guys, and I was rudely interrupted by Mr. Evan Shanks, who decided to Periscope right now. So let's say hi to Evan.
Okay. Well, this is so crazy. I've had a YouTube channel for this long, and I am just now doing this. Okay. What is good?
So to close out this video, I just wanted to say thank you again to all my subscribers, all 1,000 of you, well, 1,004 at this point. I want to thank you sincerely for subscribing, for liking my videos, for commenting, for participating in this channel. You guys are what keep me going. So if you want to see different videos, just post your comments below. Let me know what you want to see, and I'll try to do it as soon as I can. Thank you, and I'll catch you guys later. Let's see. my air fuel ratio gauge. I have my version 3 access port. I also like to carry some razor blades, at least one. So that's typically what I keep in my car on a day-to-day basis, aside from the car parts. Now I have to put all this crap back in my car, but before I do, I'm gonna tag 2 people. First of all, Subaru WRX fan, because I want to see what he keeps in his EcoBoost. And secondly, Rob Dom, because at this point, all that I know that he keeps in his car are dead bodies.